A live welcome from above and Batman Beyond. We are live on our YouTube channel. I am your co-host, Benjamin David. What is up, Neo Gotham? Today is another live episode, and the Batsuit returns. We are talking all about the exciting yellow oval Batsuit reveal from Flash director Andy Muschietti on Instagram. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. Today's show will also be available in audio podcast form, just like the YouTube channel. We are above and Batman Beyond. So before we jump into it, if you're new here at the channel, again, please consider subscribing on YouTube. Click that notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. And for the podcast listeners, please subscribe to the pod. You can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And for both the pod and YouTube audience, please subscribe to both. There's plenty of YouTube stuff you're obviously not going to find on the podcast, and vice versa. And also, please follow us on Instagram. We are at Batman Beyond Media. The Flash is expected November 4th, 2022, so you can look forward to plenty more of our coverage to come. All right, guys, let's go. Live action, live, baby. This is an exciting one, seriously. All right, for those of you joining us live on YouTube, thank you for your patience. Please feel free to drop us a question anytime and let us know what you think of the Batsuit reveal. So what we're going to do is talk about the Instagram photo itself, posted in Muschietti's profile, my initial thoughts and reactions actually seeing this thing on Instagram a couple days ago. Then we'll get into the IMDb and IGN of it all. In IGN we trust. And then we'll get into some of the potential DC Comics influence on the Flash movie, judging by the bloodstain we see on this Batsuit reveal. All right, so let's check in with YouTube. Anybody yet? Nobody yet. That's all right. We just signed in. Ooh, we got a thumbs up. I like the look of that. I like your style, guys. So let's look at the IG photo. I mean, my initial thoughts seeing this on Instagram flipped out. Like, you do a double take. There's so much on Instagram with digital recreation and stuff, right? I mean, people can recreate so much with CG, whatever. Digital artists are incredible. But I'm like, this looks real. See Andy Muschietti, continue to flip out. All right, so the photo itself, though, returns, not 89. It's definitely the return symbol. So the 89 symbol has an extra scallop on the bottom. Yellow oval, baby. Yellow, a motherfucking oval. On a new bat symbol in an upcoming movie. Unbelievable. So it doesn't have, and I actually prefer this symbol. This is the one that, of course, gets carried into, for the most part, into the Batman the Animated Series. And then kind of your standard Batman from there on was like that yellow oval, just plastered, branded like crazy is the Returns logo. It's not as sharp, and they kind of soften it up. That's why I said it's like a slight variation. But for the most part, the Returns logo is kind of the bat symbol of history since Returns. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty impactful. That's what we're getting back on a fucking Batsuit. So definitely Returns on 89. But it doesn't mean the same universe, of course. The dust is the second thing that hit me. This thing has been sitting around a while. It's not like the most unbelievable thing to see on an old Batsuit, but it was just such a good reminder. Like, oh, this ain't your shiny Batman. This is Grandpa Batman. Like, this dude, Keaton, is 70 years old. IRL, in real life, this dude's 70 years old, and I think they're just going to play up that real age difference. I'm sure maybe they'll age him down a couple years, but it's kind of like, why do that if this whole thing is to multiverse it and remind us all this is Yo Granddaddy's Batman, literally. So then, of course, the blood of it all. As IGN said, it's black, it's yellow, also red. Immediately for me, Watchmen. Okay, as I usually admit, I'm not nearly as deep into the DC comics themselves as I am with the animated stuff. I am getting better about it, but of course we're here for animation, movies, all that stuff. But still, I read Watchmen. It's one of the classics of the DC universe, so I had to read Watchmen. I will actually get into I shouldn't say DC universe quite yet, but we'll get into that as a little teaser. But yeah, man, I mean, Watchmen's a classic. The blood on the cover of Watchmen was my immediate thing. All the imagery with that gory book and with the comedian, all that stuff. The smiley face from the comedian's button. Rebirth, DC Rebirth. So speaking of button, there's the series called The Button within DC Rebirth when DC Rebirth kicked off. The years escape me. I do know that, just brushing up briefly before this going live here, The Button was in 2017, and it was the Batman and Flash team up when there was the discovery of the comedian's button tying the Watchmen into the new Rebirth continuity. But I'm not recalling if they found the button in 2016 and called it back in the Button series with the Flash team up. So don't hold me to that. The point is that I read all those books back then. I mean, give me a break. This is going on 4 or 5 years ago. But like that all hit me. I'm like, oh, it's the Button, right? Because it's a Flash Batman team up. And also all of this, excuse me, with Watchmen, of course, you have this constant theme of time, which is perfect for sequels, right? Well, last time we went live, in fact, somebody in the chat was like, Batman Beyond, I want to see a Batman Beyond trilogy. Now back to this stuff here, Batman Beyond aside, it's like the reason I think Batman Beyond is good for sequels and trilogies is because it's about time. It's about the future. It's about the past, young, old. That's what this shit is about, right? So like tying the Watchmen into it, symbolism of watches and time. And of course, Dr. Manhattan is this timeless, he sees all moments of time simultaneously and all the trippy, amazing, heady things that go into Watchmen, tying into the possibilities of this. Very exciting shit. So the Button hit me. I talked about the dust. And then again, I kind of just said it. My reaction as a Beyond fan, the things I just said, and then also the suit itself, is this an adapted suit? Is this the same suit? Because like in the when we see him battle Ink in Batman Beyond in the series, he busts out the old suit and they recall the old Shirley Walker, of course, in the screaming guitars and everything. But that's Bruce Wayne in the old suit, that's Bruce Wayne in like a roboticized suit that he had built, obviously between the time of the old Batsuit and then for the suit that we see Terry wear. And he was like, it was a strain on my heart, all that stuff. So it was just this. I don't know if they're going to strap like a bat symbol to that. Like I've heard some people talk about that possibility. That, of course, as a Beyond fan, when I first saw that shot, that hit me. I don't know. Because the other thing too, I just did some comparisons now looking at it. I know this isn't my initial reaction, but what could prove me wrong is that right under the symbol, like I'm looking at the Batman Returns suit right now, and it is, if you haven't seen the image, to be clear, first of all, Google this so we know what we're talking about. But if you're listening to this audio, whatever, like it's kind of a close-up. It's like a medium close-up of the suit, I guess you would call it in film terms. So you're not seeing the entire Batsuit. It's mostly just to catch, it perfectly composes the symbol. So the symbol fits perfectly in the shot, but there's only a little bit of the Batsuit on the outside of it on this Instagram shot. So it's not the whole Batsuit, but the underpiece right under the return symbol, it is like the Returns suit. And the way the lines go up above that, I'm pretty sure is also the same. But again, that doesn't mean what the rest of that suit, he could have just branded that same awesome symbol onto another bigger suit. So, again, are we getting an adapted suit? Is this the same suit? I think if Keaton's older, maybe he should strap into something adapted, and we'll get some Beyond type stuff with that. Not just because I'm a Beyond fan. I just look, if he's old, come on, he can't just hop in the old suit and everything's fine. I do want to get flashbacks in this suit though. I want this suit shiny, and I want some flashbacks. We talked about that on several episodes going back. So check out our live action live series. Numerous previous episodes covering this kind of same shit. What we want from this movie. All kinds of stuff. Also tie-ins with there's been a bunch of stuff recently, especially with the upcoming Batman 89 comic. Now, again, this is still the 89 verse, even though it's a Returns stuff. Michael Keaton Batman, of course. We are getting stuff in that book that seems to be bridging what we got in Returns and what we could have gotten, what we can get in this movie, which is extra fucking exciting. Like, oh my God. So check out Quinones on Instagram, who is drawing that book. It's KWINONES on Instagram, and he has been posting his pictures. I met him at Boston Fan Expo a couple years ago. He's a really good artist, specifically with he loves the animation and movie stuff. amazing digital artist, and he's doing the Batman '89 comic. So that has been getting my brain storming with what we might see in this book, of course, because that's kind of other recent Keaton news, even though, 30+ year version of the Bat, and we're getting like new stuff in that. So that's pretty exciting shit. All right, so back to the news here. Those are kind of, again, my initial thoughts looking at that picture. All of that shit was running through my head, and it was very exciting. So just to get into some quick IMDb trivia, as always, with the 2022 Flash movie, in case you're not super familiar. Of course, we have, again, Andy Muschietti directing. Christina Hodson is writing the screenplay. Christina Hodson also wrote Birds of Prey. 2020's Birds of Prey, and is also writing the upcoming Batgirl, which was recently announced, the upcoming Batgirl movie. So she's embedded now in the DC live action verse. Sorry, back to IMDb. There's IGN, there's IMDb. We're going to go back to IMDb. This is also exciting. Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton are returning. We talked about the Keaton stuff, of course. Affleck is also set to reprise his role as Bruce Wayne Batman. A lot of people are suspecting he might just return as Bruce Wayne. We don't know yet. Ezra Miller, of course, is the Flash, so we're getting our DCEU Flash. Sasha Calle, that was announced a couple months ago that we're getting a Supergirl in this movie. It doesn't say which L she is, whether it's Kara L or whoever, but it's Supergirl that we're getting her. And what's most exciting to me about this whole casting and the whole thing about this movie, which we're going to get into a little deeper with the IGN stuff, is that this is a multiverse. It's a multiverse live action movie. Like, that is just crazy to think about, that you can, at this point, we have, if you include Christopher Reeve's, over 40 years of live action IP, intellectual property, whatever you want to call it, to now draw from as we did with comics before that. So you can say, all right, everything counts. Michael Keaton counts. Christopher Reeves counts. The Watchmen, which we're going to talk about, can now count, especially with this blood thing. It's like, why the hell not, right? Because if the button did that, now you can do that with your films. So that's just so exciting to see. And again, Affleck and Keaton really just confirms that that's a multiverse. Like, it's just, it's so nuts. Like, DCEU meets, and we're getting a taste of that a bit with the Ezra Miller. That's DCEU Flash with, let's call it the '89 verse, but still, like, Affleck, two bats, and you got to think they're going to do same screen, same time. They have to share a screen at least at some point. So that's pretty damn incredible. So let's get a little deeper into the IGN info, because they're going to give us some more info on some of the stuff I was just talking about as well. Now, the blood stain, right? Some people their initial reactions were like, oh, is he going to die? Is Michael Keaton, because he's an older Batman? and immediately IGN was like, let's remember the initial rumors be rumors. But, what's also been confirmed, maybe not confirmed, but just through the news that we've gotten, the fact that he is an older Batman, and what Muschietti, both Barbara, the producer, and husband director, Andy Muschietti, have said about this this Flash being our main DCEU Batman, we're not losing him. So they kind of debunked the blood thing, which I thought was funny. I didn't know that. I'm so inside geekverse here that I didn't think of that. But again, the rumor was that he's going to serve as like a mentor Nick Fury type figure in this. While those exact words haven't been confirmed, that's probably going to be it, because main DCEU Batman is something that they said, which is pretty nuts. That, like, yes, Affleck counts as a DCEU Batman, but now it's going to be like, it seems like he's going to be, between that rumor and that, it seems like he's going to be this, again, new Nick Fury for the Flash, an older mentor that you kind of check in with, that isn't necessarily, participating in the action, but he's like, man, I've seen all this shit. So then getting into a little more of the comics, I definitely needed IGN for this, because, I'm not, again, super deep into the comics. Once again, the cover of Watchmen, that was the most obvious thing. But also, I went into this before. 2017's The Button. So that is the Batman and Flash team up, where they quote solve a mystery about the multiverse involving the iconic Watchmen button. So this is from my memory as well. Triggered my memory of reading it, where at the end of one of these books, it's like the reveal of the button. That was the big thing at the kickoff of the DC Rebirth, or at least within that first year and Rebirth was literally a rebirth of the New 52 universe of comics, which it just, said all that. Yes, it happened, but let's explain our way into this, a new version, reboot. It's a reboot of the DC comics. Batman finds a button in the Batcave at the end of one of these comics, and then that launches this adventure of the 2017's The Button, which once again is this Batman Flash team up. I think it was 4 issues altogether, which then was a build up. So then The Button was a build up to Jeff Johns' miniseries Doomsday Clock, huge event going on past few years of the DC comics. This Doomsday Clock then united DC with Watchmen, which once again I was saying before, when I saw that blood, when I knew that this movie was this multiverse spanning live action thing, it's like, oh shit, that can make Zack Snyder's Watchmen just count. That can make even the HBO Watchmen, for my money, way better, count. Who knows? Like, it makes everything count. Excuse me. Which is goes back even more to, if you're doing button stuff, if you're doing this blood imagery, if Doomsday Clock does unite the DC with Watchmen, and then the other thing with Doomsday Clock, it was an explanation for the New 52. So there was the New 52 verse, which once again was the universe prior to DC Rebirth. So that was the universe they were rebooting. Was, I think, between 2011 and 2016 was the New 52. 2016 and forward has been Rebirth. And it rebooted New 52. So it kind of explains away the New 52. Was one of the big Doomsday Clock, let's say, purposes. Then we know there's the Flashpoint influence. So Muschietti has been saying this pretty much from the beginning. IGN talks about this as well. And they pull up a Muschietti quote, Barbara Muschietti, who once again is the wife of Andy, the director and producer on this movie. So the quote from Barbara, let me pull it up here. Sorry about the wait. Touted as a version of the classic DC Flashpoint story, the story will apparently, quote, restart everything in the DC cinematic universe. It's going to be fun and exciting, and there are a lot of DC characters in it. That's again from Barbara Muschietti. Quote, Flash is the superhero of this film because he is the bridge between all of these characters and timelines. And in a way, it restarts everything and doesn't forget anything. Again, everything counts. Oh my God. So, and then, IGN starts talking about, meanwhile, Matt Reeves is working on the next Batman solo film, which is like a whole, its own thing. And then it gets into how schedules were pushed back. So the other thing to think about, once again, because of COVID, November 4th, 2022 is going to be the new Flash release. And then the Batman got pushed back to March 4th, 2022. So we're only 9 months away, people, from a Batman movie. And this also means that, because the Batman, think about this too, the Batman was supposed to come out this month, June 25th, 2021. Now it's pushed back to 2022. So now we're going to have 3 live action Batman on screen in the theaters. Maybe not at the same time, but who cares? Like, that is nuts. We're going to have the Batman in March. Then we're going to have 2 Batman in the Flash in November. Man, that's exciting. So, yeah, man, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, and then again, we already talked about this. This could even unite the Watchmen live action universe, among others, with our existing DCEU. So, just to recap, we got the Flash who was in this Flash. Ezra Miller Flash is the DCEU, right? So Affleck, of course, part of that. Snyder Cut, that's DCEU. We've seen the DCEU already crossover with the Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover, the CW verse, let's call it. We know we're now getting an 89 crossover. Now with this blood, Watchmen. who knows what's next, guys. Also, the Supergirl stuff. I was thinking about this beforehand, and I mentioned this earlier. We didn't get the name of the Supergirl, and Sasha Calle, ethnically, sure, she comes from Krypton, but like, not a white girl. She's Colombian, I believe. And so like, she could, I guess, be related to Henry Cavill if you're doing the, again, human blood relation ethnic thing, but it's Krypton, so who the hell cares? And it doesn't matter. And it could be any race. You see what I'm saying there? But I think that this could be a Supergirl, my point, non-DCEU Supergirl. Because if you're doing a multiverse, why the fuck not? Like, why have, at that point, why have three? Because if you already have DCEU Batman, DCEU Flash, why have DCEU Supergirl? If it's Cavill's cousin, that's DCEU Supergirl. Why not have some new universe? And that could kick off a new Superman. And it could be, who knows, maybe a relative of this, that newest Superman coming up, the Ta-Nehisi Coates movie. Who the hell knows? Oh, man. Well, again, that's a black Superman, but then with the Krypton thing, all this goes in circles, guys. Krypton, all bets are off, which is beautiful. Yeah, man. So that is it for Batsuit Returns. Once again, don't forget to subscribe here at the channel for more episodes of our live action live series. I love when live action news comes out. We get to talk about it here on the channel. So exciting. So if you're new here at the channel, again, please consider subscribing on YouTube. Click that notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. For the podcast listeners, please subscribe to the pod. You can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. For both the pod and YouTube audience, please subscribe to both, since there's plenty of YouTube stuff you're obviously not going to find on the podcast and vice versa. Please also follow us on Instagram. We are at BatmanBeyondMedia. The Flash is expected November 4th, 2022, so you can look forward to plenty more of our coverage to come. As you can see, Benjamin's a slight fan of this shit. Our previous episodes of Live Action Live, we did the Suicide Squad Green and Red Band trailers. We haven't gone live for live action stuff recently because there's a lot more animation. We are animation focused, of course, which brings us into our next thing here at the DC Animated Movie Show. But again, got a lot more live action live stuff to come. So again, DCAMs, Vids and Pods. So our DC Animated Movie Show is another series here on the channel. The prestigious ongoing catalog of DC animated movies. So again, podcast and vid series, recent stuff, the Long Halloween. We have a vid coming on that, and we already did a vid called The Godfather of Long Halloween, pulling all the Godfather references, or I should say all the Godfather references that were pulled into the 90s comic of Long Halloween, because the Batman Long Halloween Part 1 is coming up actually this month, is going to be released. And of course, for our DC Animated Movie Show, we're going to cover the hell out of that. But we have another vid coming as well. It's called the Long Halloween in 4 Minutes. So it covers the behind the scenes B-roll and a lot of the sneak peek featurette that was released on Justice Society World War II. And yeah, so we're going to talk about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff in just 4 minutes. So that's coming up. And we're in the midst of for the podcast, our Showcase Short Pod series. So the DC Showcase Shorts in the DC Animated movies. There is a bunch of DC Showcase Shorts. If you haven't seen them, they're amazing. And we've already covered Phantom Stranger. We're doing the newer crop of them from 2019 through 2020. Actually 2021, because we started off with Commandy Last Boy on Earth. That came out with Justice Society World War II. We did Phantom Stranger. We have Adam Strange coming up. And then it's going to be Death and Sergeant Rock. And then we're also going to talk about whether there's some news coming out for the Blue Beetle and the Losers, because those are coming out as well. Finally, Batman Beyond animated series commentary is coming. And stay tuned for where, because they're not going to be here in the channel. You might find clips here on the channel, but they're going to be exclusive. And I can't tell you where, but stay tuned. So this has been Live Action Live. I have been Benjamin David, telling you to go above and Batman Beyond.